Again and again we turn up and we show our strength, our unity and our determination to our employer. Ambulance Victoria and the government need to remember that he's dealing with paramedics here, and paramedics deal with stress, pressure, fatigue that they don't deal with every day and every night. And if they think they can scare us, or that we'll tire out and that we'll surrender to them, then they need to think. This is when we perform our best work. This is when we stand together, when we support one another. This is when we rely on one another. This is when... This is when others get stressed and others get scared, but we stay strong. We will not back down to this government, and we will not back down to Ambulance Victoria. They have got to remember that. We will never back down to them. Well, Victorian paramedics, loud and clear, so they can hear it in that building. Do you feel supported by Ambulance Victoria management? No! Do you feel supported by the Ambulance Victoria board? No! Do you feel supported by the CEO, Greg Sasella? No! All of Victoria is listening, all of Victoria is watching. Do we have confidence in Greg Sasella? No! Do we have confidence in Greg Sasella? No! Do we have confidence in Greg Sasella? No! Well, he wants you to support him. He expects you. In the recent AV annual report, he criticises us, criticises the union of paramedics for the bad reputation of Ambulance Victoria. Of course, it's not his fault. It's not their fault. It's your fault. Well, where was he supporting us when Dave Davis said that we mistreat patients at Frankston Hospital? Did he support us then? No! Did he support us when Dave Davis said that paramedics earn $215,000 a year? No! About half of his wage. And did he support us at any point during our claim for pay parity with other states? No! Not once.
He probably will.
We come here today to show Greg Sasella that after a decade in his position, he still cannot get it right. We come here to ask Greg to support us. But what does Greg ask of us? He asks us to get world-class results, to perform skills at the highest standard in Australia, and expects us to learn these and master these on our own time. He expects us to support a broken call-taking and dispatch system that sends emergency ambulances, lights and sirens to a runny nose, and leaves the elderly to die on their lounge room floor.
Shame! Shame!
He expects us to prop up a severely under-resourced service, leaving us to apologise to the waiting families, or to go entire shifts without a single break. He asks that of us every week, and do we deliver?
Yes!
Too right we do. We do it more. We do it every day. Rain, hail, shine. Rain, hail or shine. Night time, daytime. And we do it right across the state every single day. Why do we do that? Because we're professionals and we care about the Victorian public.
Yes. Yes.
And what do we ask of Greg Sasella? We ask for a safe workplace that supports and sustains our careers. We ask to go home at night free from injuries, whether they are physical or mental. We ask him to provide a workplace free of bullying and one that promotes leadership. We simply ask for recognition and to be valued for what we do. We hold up our end of the bargain, does Greg? No! And so what's the result? We have a workforce that is constantly fatigued, unsupported and undervalued. We have a workforce that is constantly at war with its own management. A suicide rate of more than 10 times the national average. And every single one of us here has lost a friend or colleague in the last year alone to suicide. Is that on? No! We have a career lifespan now that's less than 5 years. People are leaving because the demands of the job simply are not met with the rewards. Clearly Greg is failing us and the Victorian people. So what is Greg supplying? He's supplying silence and cover-ups. He remains silent while the health minister slanders paramedics with false accusations. He remains silent while the government spruiks false data about our income and our conditions. And now he covers up the facts by withholding performance data. Well, enough is enough. We need you to be a leader, Greg. We need you to come out from the shadows and support our fight for fair wages. We refuse to be the lowest paid in the country, and it's time that we were paid fairly for what we do. Other states got it right in 2009 with back pay. Well, it's 2014 now. Time's up. Code red!
The first thing I'd like to read you a little excerpt from the strategic plan that came out last year. Greg Sasella took his travelling circus on the road last year, and he spoke to us about the engaging the workforce was the headline that they used. There is a clear recognition within the organisation that we now need to place greater focus on our people to ensure that they are able to continue to perform at a high level and further develop their professionalism. Has anyone seen any sign of this?
No!
I put it to you that the actual true heading there was engaging the workforce in long and protracted battle. That's what he really meant, and that's what he's done, with the aim being that eventually we will back down. Will we back down?
No!
Will we be bullied into accepting something less than we deserve?
No!
I'd like to tell you a little story about 4 years ago. Greg Sasella came to the Bendigo branch. A bit of an impromptu meeting, informal gathering, and we spoke to him about our concerns about the fact that ambulance paramedics are getting worn out after 5 to 7 years, burned out and leaving the job. Greg Sasella, your CEO's response to that was that this is not an issue for Ambulance Victoria because there's almost always more students knocking on the door ready to do the job. Now, what sort of an attitude is this to have towards his paramedics? There's no respect for your experience or your knowledge. There's been numerous examples over the recent years to show that he has places no value on your experience and your knowledge, particularly in rural Victoria. We found that things like taking rural mica paramedics out of the smaller regional towns. He's overseen that, while a lot of smaller towns now have no access to mica paramedics. He's also stood by and watched while the Victorian government has published lies and propaganda against us. And he knows that they're wrong, but he has not stood up and said anything about it. He's also failed to negotiate in good faith in regards to the implementation of the rural reserve model. Instead, he's forced a model on paramedics that's causing stress and extra fatigue. And he's also stood by and watched while Victorian Police Command have withdrawn their support for paramedics when attending potentially violent incidents. He spooks in this strategic plan about increasing safety, and yet he stood by and watched as now we attend these incidents hoping that there's not going to be a violent situation there. This has all happened under his guidance while he's kept quiet and we've heard nothing from him. So I say to you, Greg, how is this engaging your workforce as you stated in your strategic plan? I'm going to ask a question now, and the response should be, you can provide whatever response you like, but the response I think would be good would be Greg's head. So the question is, what do we want?
Greg's head!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Greg's head!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Greg's head!
When do we want it?
Now!
Thank you, everyone, and fantastic effort again today.
Look, it's fantastic to see the numbers again, and I think someone mentioned it earlier that the numbers just keep rolling out rally after rally, and it just goes to show the strength in unity and what this really means to you, not only the wage campaign, but what it means to you about the ambulance system, about the ambulance culture, and things desperately need to change. And I assume that's why you continue to come out for better wages and conditions, but also for a better culture. And Greg Sasella has been the leader of that culture for a lengthy period of time. And while they keep putting out reports that they're going to improve things, nothing ever seems to improve. And it's very unfortunate. And someone mentioned before, we've lost 11 colleagues and peers over the last 5 or 6 years, tragically, to suicide. We hope we don't lose any more, but it's probably inevitable that we will. but we need to support each other as much as we possibly can through the thick and thin of this industry, and the only way that the ambulance service is going to improve in Victoria is by paramedics and ambulance employees continuing to rally outside the headquarters of the ambulance service, outside the headquarters of the Health Minister's office, and outside Parliament, and outside Dennis Napthone's office to send the message home. So I congratulate you for continuing that campaign to improve it for all Victorians. The reason why we called the rally out here today was to give Greg Sasella an opportunity to come out and show his respect and support for you. We did write to him, offering him an invitation to come and speak, and Greg did kindly send back a letter declining the offer to speak to you because he felt it was inappropriate. Which is grossly disappointing, but not unexpected. But yeah, you only work for him, that's why they won't let you use the toilets. But he has offered an invitation for a delegation to go up and meet with him, and we will send a delegation up to his office around 11 o'clock. And the people that are, stick your hands up when I call out your name, the people that are in that delegation are Amanda Mills just down here, Morgan McCarthy, Mark Adie, where's Mark? Mark over the back, and Brenda Forbar's going to go up from the union. So we congratulate those four, and no doubt they will go up and grill Greg about the current situation of ambulance and about the current situation of the wage and entitlement dispute. And hopefully we'll get some answers, and what answers we do get from that delegation going forward, we'll feed back to you through all the channels that we have, the bulletins, the Facebook, whatever way we can get that message back to you. So we'll get that word back to you after that delegation come out. Where am I? I don't normally write speeches because I hate writing speeches, but look, we've had 2 meetings with Ambulance Victoria and the government since our last rally. Unfortunately, we've made very little progress in the discussions. One thing through your strength and unity is that you have pushed the government into a position that they now will agree to a work value case. But it is subject to you negotiating away some conditions that you've fought for many years and had for many years. And failing a negotiated outcome of losing those conditions, they want to have them arbitrated away. Things such as the rolled-in rate of pay, so the way that you get your shift penalties. Things such as part-time employment conditions. They want to pay part-time employees a cheaper overtime rate than any other employee. They want to remove the priority zero window for meal breaks, so make it even harder for you to get a meal break during a shift. That's if you do get a meal break during a shift, and we know many people don't. They want to use volunteers more in lieu of using paramedics, and we've got evidence of that happening over the last few weeks, and in particular last week in the fires, where they used volunteers to assess firefighters going and coming from fires last week, where they have to have health checks. Rather than use trained paramedics, they use first aiders after 40 hours of training to assess firefighters. And I can assure you the Firefighters Union are not very happy about it. So that will not happen into the future, I can assure you. We will not stand by and allow volunteers to replace paramedics, and that's what AV's intentions are, and that's what the government's intentions are, and that's the trade-off for you having your work assessed through a work value case. That's what they want, to replace you with volunteers. It's not going to happen.
Damn straight.
I was glad that wasn't a Bengal. I might all have to run over there. I want to acknowledge the people that are working in this building, not the managers, because there's obviously no managers there today because there's no cars in the car park. Isn't that strange? They must all be on an RDO. But we do have members in that building. The clerical and administration members work out of that building. They're not allowed to come out to this rally today because they've been told, because they're on duty, they can't attend. So I want to acknowledge all of our members that work in that building and in all the other administration areas around Metro, and in all the other areas like the workshops and things like that. They're still our members, but they can't come off the job and they can't be at this rally today because they're not allowed to be, even though we're outside their workplace. So we do acknowledge their efforts, and they're hurting as much as what you are. We still see many situations, and of course it's been highlighted today in the press again through the fires last week and the heat wave last week of the crisis in ambulance and the delays to patients. And of course we had a story on the front of the Age this morning, and one of our members made comments, and she should be congratulated, and hopefully she won't be harmed by Adie because she made a public comment to try and protect Victorian people. But we had a situation last week. It's not new that summers come around every year. They have been in my 55 years that I've been alive, and I'm sure it happened well before that. It's not new that Victoria can have heat waves like every other state in Australia. So what happens? We get a call on Monday afternoon from AB to indicate to us they want to give us a briefing about the heat wave. But they didn't indicate any rush to give us a briefing. They said, oh look, it could wait till Thursday. I said the heat wave will be over by Thursday. Anyway, Danny has a briefing on the Tuesday, and they tell us about what they were planning to do and how good it was going to be and how they'll cope with it all. And of course, we're not that cynical. We knew it wouldn't work. They put bugger all resources on, right? And in fact, in our communication centre, our communication centre at Ballarat actually had a reduction of people in the communication centre during the heat wave. So how were they supposed to cope with a 20% demand increase? They couldn't. On-road resources, very limited. But you out there last week experienced it. You know what it was like. And we will ask people that worked last week during the heat wave, if anyone out there is prepared to talk to the media after this rally, we would welcome you to come forward, and we'll put you in touch with one of the media outlets here, and they may want to do a very short interview with you for the news about your experiences as a paramedic, but in particular during last week's heat wave. So if anyone wants to participate in that, don't hesitate to come forward after the rally. But you experienced the extremes last week because of the lack of available ambulance resources across not only metropolitan Melbourne, but right across the state. And we see examples in the paper today about people suffering and also dying. This has to stop. David Davis thinks we're just playing this political game just to gain better conditions for you. Of course we want better conditions for you, but we also want a better ambulance service and a better conditions for the Victorian public. We need to improve. There needs to be an overhaul of the communication system. We need to stop responding paramedics to unnecessary cases that they don't need to respond to, so you can respond to the genuine cases that people suffering, 85-year-old women suffering, waiting for 2 hours in a critical situation, doesn't get an ambulance for that 2-hour period because ambulances are tied up on unnecessary cases because of the dispatch system. That has to change. There has to be more resources put in. There has to be more ambulance resources put in right across the state, not only on the ground, in the comms room, in all of their centres that service, running the service. They need to upgrade immediately. And yes, this government will say it was the last government's fault, and that government will, ex-government would say it was the previous government's fault. That bullshit has to stop, right? Yeah. People have to come first, and that's what you do in your profession, and that is you put people first because you want to look after their welfare. We want to look after your welfare and make sure that you have proper conditions so you can deliver the best outcome for the Victorian public. And I support you and salute you in your campaign. Continue to stand firm, continue to stand united. The Minister thinks it's just a rogue union that's divided from its members. Well, you show the Minister whether you're divided from the union. You show the Minister what it takes to get an outcome. We will not back down until we get a proper and fair outcome on your wages and conditions and a proper outcome for all Victorians. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce a paramedic who would like to speak. He's a paramedic from Ballarat, Adam Phillips.
Hey guys, thanks for attending. Mine's a pretty short bit. I, Adam Phillips, a paramedic in Ballarat for Ambulance Victoria, would like to move a vote of no confidence against our CEO, Greg Sasella. All those in favour, raise your hand and say aye. Aye! Thanks very much for your support, guys. Keep up the fight. To see if there's anyone against. Anyone against? Raise your hand. Okay, thanks very much. Okay guys, we'll just take that vote one more time.